Good morning, Matt Waldman.
Good morning, Bob
There's
Harris.
no football. Oh, wait.
Says you.
I watched like 9 hours of auto racing and Saturday Night Live and absolutely zero. I did a little work in the morning. I'm not going to lie. But absolutely watching zero football-related content. I suspect, sir. Hi, I'm Bob Harris. That's Matt Waldman. He's author of the Rookie Scouting Portfolio. It's entirely possible he was doing something else football-related yesterday. Am I wrong?
No, I mean, I'm wrapping up quarterbacks for the Rookie Scouting Portfolio, available April 1st. And I've got Quinn Ewers and Seth Hennigan from Memphis left. But I've watched a lot of the major guys. Interesting class, actually. It's a very
Quinn Ewers to
class.
the Jets. Feel it or fuck it.
I haven't seen him yet. So, not really. Not anything. I haven't charted him yet, so I don't really want to talk about that yet.
All right, we'll get plenty of time for that. We're going to talk some rookies today. So, interesting week. The Super Bowl's over. The best ball rooms are open. Hi, I'm there. Also, that means we have some. I've started.
I feel like we just saw an empty bar, and there's Bob slumped over the bar.
It's entirely possible. I am not I'm not in the best ball 10s yet, but you'll see me in the Underdog. You'll see me on Fast Draft, so check that out too. But the first Underdog ADPs are out, and so I thought there were some interesting players going closely together, and I wanted to get your take. So I'm going to give you two players. We'll go through some positions, and I want you to feel one and fuck one.
Okay.
So this should be a joyous occasion for you and me both, and I will chime in. I've done my initial initial 2025 projections are up at Football Guys. My initial draft rankings are up. Jason Wood did the projections. He's done his rankings as well as Moriel Tremblay. I've done mine too. So we'll throw in a little context as needed. But I do think these ADPs are interesting, and some of it confirms what we know. People remember the last thing they saw very often. And we'll sort through some of that and see what makes sense and what doesn't. We'll start at the quarterback position. Patrick Mahomes, quarterback 6. He's with the Kansas City Chiefs, Matt. You'll be surprised to learn. Just lost the Super Bowl. Bo Nix, quarterback 7. Feel one, fuck one.
I'm going to feel Patrick Mahomes, even though he hasn't played maybe to the level that people have expected. I think we know that he's proven. We know that this offense is probably going to continue. They're just trying to find their way at wide receiver, and I think they're getting closer to it than we've seen in the past. With Bo Nix, I'll say fuck it, mainly from the standpoint that he has a really strong season. I like his future, but I think that quarterback development is an ebb and flow process for the first 2 years, and we often see that that defenses are a little bit more ready after a full off season, and they pose obstacles that maybe the young player hasn't been able to prove that he can do or not do. And I think that we may see some challenges as a sophomore from him that may lower his ADP or lower his value a little bit next year, but not to the point where I think he's going to have the floor, the trap door open up. I think that he's still going to be like a low-end quarterback one, so has a chance to be at least a top 15 guy. I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, I think so. Like Patrick Mahomes, I think he's overpriced at quarterback 6. I'm fucking that. Bo Nix is also overpriced at quarterback 7. I'm more likely to have, but I don't think that's where this is going to end up. I'm with you. I think this will dial back a little bit and reasonably priced. Like I've done some mock drafts, not best balls yet. Where he's gone probably is, at the tail end of the quarterback ones. If he's in that price range, I'm going to have a shit ton of them, as the kids would say. Or the old people. I don't know. Who says that?
I said it the other night on Twitter.
Did you? Okay.
I watch a shit ton of film. I think that's what I said.
Maybe that's where I got it.
Okay.
But Patrick Mahomes, I'm not interested in at that price. I'm interested in him. In my current ranking, I have him quarterback 12, and I feel like that's overly aggressive. He has not been a quarterback 1 for the most part for a couple of years. He has quarterback 1 weeks, and they're very impressive. And maybe this offense, though, I do see a possibility of a shift. So I'm moving him up that tail end because clearly he's capable of this. But I like Bo Nix with the rushing ability. I'll have way more shares of him than Patrick Mahomes.
There you go.
Caleb Williams is quarterback 12. Jordan Love is quarterback 13. Feel one, fuck one.
I'm feeling Caleb Williams because he's got a good coordinator for once. He's going to have a full off season with it, and I think that I thought he was by far the best quarterback in his draft class, and I'm not backing down from that comment. Even though year 1, everyone's probably all on Jaden Daniels, who I think is good. I just had a little bit more of a sober outlook with what he could be and I thought there'd be a little more ebb and flow with him, and that I worried about the the Cliff Kingsbury offense a little bit. I was going to call it the Kirk Cousins, bologna offense, bologna sandwich offense, which could still be a bologna sandwich a little bit. But, I would say definitely Williams, mainly because I think he's going to see an overall just upgrade in what they do. I think Ben Johnson, who comes from a really strong offensive line, is going to be banging down the door to make sure they get an offensive line. Whether he has to hold Ryan Poles hostage or Ryan Poles' family hostage or whatever it is he's got to do, he's got to send Bob Harris in there. He might, they're going to get some upgrade at the offensive line. I think that's going to make a huge difference for Williams. Jordan Love, pre-draft, I thought he was a very troubling prospect with some great physical gifts. And I think we saw him a little bit. He played much better with time away and being able to chance to kind of acclimate. But I think that now that he's in his second full season as a starter, we saw some of the holes in his game. And I still think he can be a good quarterback and be an effective quarterback. But he has some moments where he just reverts to reactivity, as in the pocket and also in game situations. And he's kind of like an upper middle. He's like maybe like a high class Jameis Winston in a sense. Jameis Winston throws those YOLO balls. You only live once. I think we see a little bit of that from Jordan Love, and I think he's got a little bit of Jameis in him. And I'm hoping doesn't have too much Jameson in him. So I'm hoping. I know, what does that sound like? But like maybe I'm talking about maybe Jameson shouldn't send him so many cookies. Those those V cookies. Maybe he shouldn't eat so many of them.
I think a little more Jameson would be fantastic for our purposes. I'll take those 30 interceptions as long as they go with 30 touchdowns. But I'm feeling Caleb Williams here. He's my quarterback 9 in my initial rankings. Jordan Love is not. He's outside the quarterback 1 conversation. I'd be fine having him. I think the plan in Green Bay always has been closer to what we saw last year. Leaning into the run game, spreading the ball around to a wide group of receivers. Maybe they get another receiver that kind of elevates that entire crew, or gives them a super big play threat, or
just bring Devonta Adams back.
That's what, I've been talking about that the last week or so, and I think that would be a key thing. Give them a consistent high-end producer at the position who's capable of making big plays, and maybe I'll be more interested in Jordan Love. Until then, I think Matt LaFleur has always been a guy that wanted to run, just couldn't get it going. In the past. Now he's gotten it going with Josh Jacobs. We'll see if he can keep it rolling like that. But that's where I'm at as well. I'm all in on Caleb Williams at this price. I think that's a decent value. Remember, when Thomas Brown took over as the play caller, immediately there was a huge shift. He was a quarterback 3, 4, 5 for multiple weeks, and so we've tasted that upside, and I'm all about that. Of course, Jordan Love would argue from weeks 10 on in his rookie season, he was quarterback 3 behind only Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. So he's tasted it as well. But I think circumstances have changed there.
Yeah, but they put that Winston flour in those cookies that he tasted. So that's all I got to say.
Dak Prescott is quarterback 16. CJ Stroud is quarterback 17. You could probably feel both of these at that price if you want, but feel one, fuck one.
God, that's so hard because I want to feel both. But I'll say I'm going to go with right now. I'm going to feel Stroud just because the weapons will be healthy. And I think that's going to be the difference. Is that
not all of them. Tank Dell won't be.
Yeah, but he was never going to be. I hate to say that, but fuck Tank Bell a little bit. He's great young player, electric, but that's going to be tough. But Nico Collins back for the length of the season, I feel a little bit better about that. They've got a strong run game. I think they're in a weaker division. All those things, I think, add up to a little bit more points. I think Dak Prescott's perfectly capable, and maybe they'll find ways to retool. But I think Jarrow wants what Jarrow wants, and sometimes what Jarrow wants isn't the best thing for the Dallas Cowboys, or it just doesn't quite work out as best as they had intended. And I think his track record kind of speaks to the fact that if I have to split ties while I'm still I'd still love to have Dak Prescott at that level. I have to compare the two. Fuck him. I'll take Stroud.
Right. I could feel both these two. Again, we've seen both these guys produce at quarterback one levels. I would probably lean to Stroud as well. We'll see if Stephon Diggs comes back. He is an unrestricted free agent, but expected probably will be a bargain coming off a torn ACL. Could be ready for the start of the
bring
season.
Chris Godwin in.
Any of those things. Do something about the offensive line. They've already changed their offensive coordinator. We'll see if that makes a difference. But I'm probably leading into Stroud because I don't know what to expect from the Cowboys. We have seen Dak Prescott, as a quarterback 3, I think, 1 year.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
But he was running then, and I don't think he's as eager to run since his big injury. So
yeah, but he can still give you 5,000 yards. He was that level of quarterback.
True.
So
it's true.
Yeah, but I think the best thing out of this is, again, I'm just being biased, and we're going to call this Chris Godwin week because there are at least 4 quarterbacks we've talked about thus far that Chris Godwin could be in Green Bay as the wide receiver 1.
Right.
He could be that good. He is a wide receiver 1 disguised as Mike Evans' understudy, which is just hilarious.
I like it. All right, this one's Matt Waldman special. So I guess we're both slightly feeling CJ Stroud slightly over Dak Prescott, but it wouldn't break our hearts if either of these guys was our quarterback 2.
Not at all.
All right. Here's another round of quarterback 2s. Michael Penix Jr., quarterback 19. Tua Tagovailoa, quarterback 20. Feel one, fuck one.
Fuck Tua. Not because I like Mike Flores.
No.
Fuck Flores too for the way he treated Tua.
You're like Mike Flores or Brian Flores Jr.
Brian Flores Jr. I was thinking Mike Florio. I'm sorry, I was combining two floor somethings that I don't particularly like. But yeah, I would say, God, I just want to go on a rant about either one of those guys. But let's no. We're gonna rein it in a little bit. I might sick Steve Smith on him though. If I can get Steve Smith to sick on them,
he's in a bad mood.
He is in a bad mood, so it would be pretty easy.
Thanks, Cam.
Yeah, exactly. We'd take the collar off, but I let the dog out. But let's see. I would say mainly because do we have an aging Tyreek Hill? Is that going to fall off the cliff soon? It seems like that Tagovailoa is also, the offense seems to be found out a little bit at times in the passing game. I just look at this and it feels like things are still in flux there. Whereas you look at Penix, I think he's on the rise. He played well at the end of the year. I think that he has a great set of receivers that are going to work well, and teams are not going to be familiar with what he does well and what he doesn't do well. And I think he's going to have a hell of a first year. And at QB 19, shit, I'm taking that every time. I'll take one of Dak. You can give me one of Dak or CJ Stroud and give me Michael Penix, and I might have the better quarterback at QB 19 for fantasy purposes.
You look at the pieces around him, and I realize one of them is Kyle Pitts. People don't at me, but
he was hurt. He's always hurt.
But I do think Tua Tagovailoa, injury agnostic though I am, you have to factor in he's a big hit away from an extended absence, and who knows, at what point, the league or whoever, or his family or somebody gangs up on him and says, "Man, we don't want to see you keep going through this." So I think that's probably the bigger issue for me. I think they both have great weapons around him. Mike McDaniel, interesting discussion from my friend Chris Perkins at Orlando, or the Sun Sentinel, so Florida Sun Sentinel, about Mike McDaniel being on the hot seat and needing to go deep into the playoffs and maybe needs to get a little more creative offensively. They brought Bobby Slowick in as a passing game coordinator. I don't know if that helps or much, but they did work together in San Francisco. So I'm interested to see, but I'd probably feel more comfortable with Michael Penix Jr. if I was being honest with myself at this point. Good weapons there too, and I like the offense. One more quarterback question because it's obligatory. My guy, also yours, Anthony Richardson is going as quarterback 21. Bryce Young is going as quarterback 22. Feel one, fuck one.
I'm going to feel Bryce Young just because we've seen how he's done thus far. And I think after that Chiefs game, that was enough for me to go, yeah, this dude's for real. He is gotten back to for real.
That was a turning point.
Yeah, it really was. Richardson, I still feel him as a prospect overall. I think a lot of this shit is hilarious because if when you hear a lot of the talking heads say this guy needs more development, let me tell you something. What the fuck do they know about development? I mean, I laugh and go, what are they going to do? Is he going to practice his footwork when they're teaching scheme all week? He's working on this shit on the side all the time anyway. When you hear people say this guy needs a lot more development, really what that's code for is I don't know how to value this guy. I don't know where to value him, and I'm waiting for my GM friends and sources to tell me what they think. That's what I believe, especially in the draft circles. Okay? Like when I hear a player needs that kind of development, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe you haven't figured out how to value him based on what someone's telling you what to say, or telling you what the NFL's value is, and you're playing that mimicry thing. But like from an Anthony Richardson standpoint, if his receivers caught half the really legitimately pinpoint passes that they dropped in this league, we'd be having a much different conversation about him than we're having. And I think that we're going to, so I would say the reason I'm saying fuck Anthony Richardson is fuck his receivers right now. And that when they get better, I'll start feeling them, and I think we'll all start feeling Anthony Richardson.
Right. I feel like I would be fine with either of these guys. I'm going to fuck Bryce Young, even though I really like him. And I totally agree with you that Kansas City game was a turning point. You saw how he handled pressure. You saw him be the thing that they claimed was the reason they drafted him, a fast processor, capable of making quick decisions, smart decisions, getting the ball out of his hand. He did all the things that that you heard about him coming in the draft. That said, I've been in on Anthony Richardson, so I'm going to remain in on Anthony Richardson, so I'm going to feel him. I still think we saw it 2 games last year. That quarterback one upside, the huge rushing ability, all the things you said. At this price, like ideally, if I would like either of them as my third quarterback in 2 quarterback leagues, probably not going to happen in 2 quarterback leagues or super flexes.
No.
But I would still take a chance, a late round chance on
at this point
on Anthony Richardson. Yeah, 21.
At this point, it's easy to say, oh, I'll take Anthony Richardson and Bryce Young, and go 1-2 with those guys, or I would take,
I would be willing to do
any
that.
of the guys that we looked at, C.J. Stroud, really. If you took C.J. Stroud, Dak Prescott, Michael Penix, Anthony Richardson, and Bryce Young, if you had to choose from those 5 quarterbacks, that's a perfect reason for me why I'd play late-round quarterback.
There will be best balls where some of the players going in the same range, Justin Fields, if he's a starting quarterback, Sam Darnold, if he's a starting quarterback, Geno Smith are going after them, Matthew Stafford, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, all going well after those guys, Jameis Winston. If they are any of those guys in the right place with those 2 guys as my 3 quarterbacks in best ball, and I'm drafting them that late, I'd be perfectly fine with it.
Fermented deli meat doesn't sound all that good to me, but okay. But aside from that, I think him and cookies, I'm not sure I'm into. But a lot of those guys, you're right. I'm feeling.
Right. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, running backs. I'm going to mix in a lot of rookies here because there's a lot of rookies I think are oddly priced. Derrick Henry, running back 5. Ashton Jeanty, running back 6. Feel one, fuck one.
I'm feeling Derrick Henry. We know what line he's going to. That he's playing behind. We know the quarterback he has. We know the offense, and we know what he did last year. And I don't think he's going to slow down. I really love Ashton Jeanty, but fuck him until we know where he's going to land and how they're going to use him. If you're going to compare him to Derrick Henry, when you come at the king, you better not miss.
I would agree with you. I don't think we saw really signs of showing down the 20-plus mile-an-hour runs. I could open my centerfold on my Next Gen Stats page and share that with you.
Hey, I got that one hanging. I got that one hanging in there too. So
all right. So look, I think
I'm not a total teetotaler now.
Ashton Jeanty sounds fantastic. I can remember when Clyde Edwards-Helaire, last rookie I remember, that failed miserably. Ended up being running back 30 with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think he was running back 6 at his peak in ADP.
And after that Texans game where he ran through paper tackles and everyone put him in the Hall of Fame. Oh my God!
Right,
that was
you
hilarious.
strap that ADP rocket to their ass, and sometimes it doesn't work out well. So I'm kind of with you there. I mean, easily Derrick Henry. The drafts I've been in, realistically, Ashton Jeanty's been going in the middle of the 2nd round. Maybe after like the likes of Christian McCaffrey, players like that. Do you feel a little more comfortable with him in that range? Let's say he went as running back 10 or 9 after Jonathan Taylor.
I would, if I'm honestly ability wise, yes, but I'd still probably say landing spot wise is still the big deal. But the dude the dude has a chance to be special, and I don't say that lightly.
Omarion Hampton is running back 19. Did he lead the ACC in rushing? Was that the guy? Apparently he's very good. Kenneth Walker III is running back 18. This is more a Kenneth Walker III question because I think people drafting him at running back 18 are getting a good deal. So I'm going to jump on this one first and say I'm feeling Kenneth Walker playing in a Clint Kubiak offense. We saw what it did for Alvin Kamara last year, people. Pay attention to these coaching moves. Kenneth Walker is criminally underpriced at running back 18. What is Omarion Hampton at running back 19?
Criminally overpriced until you find a fit. I mean, like, look, he's a fine running back, and there's some people out there on the interwebs who basically will tell you that he is the resolution to all the world's problems. At the running back position, like he's just going to run the ball and he's going to cure hunger. He's going to, cure the, help the environment. He's going to help us expose whether there's really aliens or not. I mean, like he's that kind of special to some people. I don't think he's all that. I think he's a nice running back who can probably be a very good borderline A back, B back type of player who can probably do both roles, but might end up stuck in a B back role. And I don't think year one is going to be that time for him unless he just lands on a team where he backs up a really strong starter with a great offensive line and that starter gets hurt. So, given all those ifs or conditions, hell yeah, I'm taking, Kenneth Walker for the reasons you stated. And hell, you can give me David Montgomery. I'd take David Montgomery over him too. I heard you mention him.
Funny that you said that because he's with my next pairing, which I think we're getting in a little more realistic territory. Not quite there. Maybe maybe this one is not quite to my liking. David Montgomery, running back 20. Kaleb Johnson, running back 21.
I'm definitely still going David Montgomery on that one. David Montgomery is the better overall running back. Kaleb Johnson could be really good.
He's
though.
Big.
Yeah.
He's big.
Caleb's big. He's fast. If you get him in an outside zone scheme where they run a majority of outside zone and it's a really good offense that does it, he's one of those guys that could give you that shooting star kind of number that gets you all excited about him. But, for him, it's about perfect fit. And I think a heavy outside zone team will take him because everyone in your mother in terms of analysts out there has figured out that he is an outside zone back. If they're all talking that, then it would just take would take Mark Davis before he got a haircut or after he got a haircut, or an ungoverned Mark Davis, in a gap scheme
Mark.
trying to put them in there. Yeah, I know.
Look, Mark.
I know. It would work for him. It would work. He'd show up to that.
You could be super sexy like me.
I'm telling you, if he showed up to that PF Chang's without the bowl cut, the Dumb and Dumber cut, he might look like a genius.
I agree.
Super
with that,
genius. Bob Harris, super genius.
We could stop now.
That's right.
Who
needs a fucking barber?
I feel that.
Yeah.
Okay, so just David Montgomery. People again. I mentioned we remember the last thing we saw. The last thing we saw was Jahmyr Gibbs running rampant because David Montgomery was coming off a 5-game absence with a knee injury. And I know in the Football Guys projections, not only is Jahmyr Gibbs running back 1, he is the 101 overall, which I think is interestingly aggressive. I'm not totally against it, but I think it overlooks the fact that David Montgomery is there and isn't going anywhere. The brain drain in Detroit, I don't know if that's going to be a real thing or not. Maybe we'll overstate that. I think obviously Jason Wood is not in his projections, but I think we're forgetting David Montgomery a little bit in that mix. Or how do you feel about that duo?
Look, David Montgomery's nickname is Knuckles. Okay, now Jahmyr Gibbs played great down the stretch, and especially with the game that you mentioned there. But let's also remember the fact that the way they want to use him they don't want to overuse him. And I think that when you look at somebody like, let's say Tony Pollard, I think our fantasy industry has a little Tony Pollard syndrome when it comes to Jahmyr Gibbs. Neither guy is the guy that you want getting northwards of 260 carries on a regular basis. And you can give that to him, but Tony Pollard got 260 this year, and he had 300 touches total, and he was running back 22. That's good.
Yes.
That's good. Jahmyr Gibbs is a higher end version of Tony Pollard in terms of maybe the electricity that he can provide, the spark he can provide as a big play option. But they clearly don't want to overuse him, and they needed to lean on him in these games. And that's fine. These were big games at the end of the season. But they're not looking for him to be that guy for 16 games and wear him down. I don't think that's the kind of player they envision him to be. They want to give Knuckles the chance to be the one that's hitting the tree trunk and splintering it up, not Jahmyr Gibbs, who hits it a few times and then is like, okay, I can do that, but now my hand's a little sore and I'm not used to that.
If you don't think David Montgomery Knuckles is the kneecap biter that Dan Campbell enjoys seeing on the field, think again. Yeah. That's part of the style. But again, Jahmyr Gibbs, they're both going to have roles. But I thought that was an interesting thing. Here's where it gets more interesting to me, Matt. And maybe I wish it was Ashton Jeanty we were talking about here, but maybe we're talking about someone close. TreVeyon Henderson from Ohio State, running back 22. James Conner, running back 23. Feel one, fuck one.
Who's the first one?
TreVeyon Henderson.
Who was the first one?
TreVeyon Henderson.
Who? TreVeyon Henderson. Oh, no.
State running back.
Yeah. He's a run. Okay. This dude, let me tell you something. He's a good young back. He's fast. The people are going to look at him as Jahmyr Gibbs Part 2. And maybe in a role he could do some of that. But that shit's ridiculous, I think. I may be wrong because with running backs, you can get Elijah Mitchell, for God's sake, out there in San Francisco. And suddenly now people are going to compare him that way because of production. But in terms of these two backs, James Conner all the way.
Right. So let me go with that. So I feel like this is the point, though, where I would start saying, like, maybe I'm interested in rookies, right? But it would be like the Ashton Jeanty or, the top end, which I don't think I'm going to get based on the early mock drafts I've done. Not best ball, just regular mock drafts.
Most people I'm hearing, and I don't hear a lot from them, but what I am hearing is people consider TreVeyon Henderson running back 2 in this class, and it's not even close for a lot of people, though there's some of the Omarion Hampton, diehards who are like, fuck you, TreVeyon Henderson, But I would say I would not be. TreVeyon Henderson is like, to me, he's more like what people thought DeAndre Swift could become. To an extent, but it's I would say the people who think that, it's not the fantasy people who think that, it's people who actually watch football who think that. Oh, maybe I'm joking. We all watch football, but the people who actually analyze football and analyze running backs think that, because I think Swift has a lot of holes in his game and he can be effective when forced in there, but teams are like, okay, let's kick that can down the road. Now that we have an opportunity at a running back who can legitimately do schematically what we want, and I think TreVeyon can do that in a limited way, but he's not. He's basically going to be in that same Jahmyr Gibbs situation where he's going to get fraughtly overvalued because they think, oh, now they're going to unleash him and they're going to give him a zillion opportunities. So that's something that I'm skeptical of TreVeyon in that, even in that position.
All right, so let's take it to running back 25 would be the knuckles of that Buckeye backfield, I'm guessing, and Quinshon Judkins. And he would be going one pick ahead of the aforementioned Tony Pollard. Feel one, fuck one.
Okay. I'm going to say I'm going to feel Tony Pollard. And I'm going to say fuck Quinshon Judkins, but not as hard as Omarion Hampton and TreVeyon Henderson for their roles.
And it's more about where the price is, right?
It's where the price is.
Right.
Because Quinshon Judkins, to me, is one of the safer backs in this class.
What is he, 6 foot, 220 pounds?
Yeah, he's like 215. He's got better burst than people. He's got pretty good burst and pretty good speed. He's played well in the SEC and in the Big Ten. He's someone who he's creative. He can pass block. His pass catching is okay, but you're just going to use him on screens and leaks. The blocking's going to work. The blocking should be fine, and he is a smart, powerful running back. He's with a little bit more going for his game than, say, David Montgomery in the speed department, but maybe not as rugged as Montgomery, but still capable.
So I've set all that up. So for me, in the mock drafts I've been in, and again, I'm starting the best balls, and I've done some. I've taken no rookies in any of my best balls, and I've taken no rookies in any of my mock drafts because the ones I felt comfortable drafting were gone long before I was comfortable drafting them. Look, and I know, you can sit here, well, why were you drafting before the NFL draft in the first place? Because that's what we do, right? But we see rookie running backs being capable of delivering some things. For me, it's more about the price range than the rookie. I mean, we can think back to guys like Bijan Robinson or Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, I was drafting Jahmyr Gibbs in round 4 and feeling pretty good about it his rookie year. I was not taking Bijan Robinson in round 1. I think, the price matters on these guys. So we'll see how this all plays out. I want to throw in one pair of veterans at a cheaper price. Rhamondre Stevenson's running back 30, J.K. Dobbins running back 31. He is an unrestricted free agent. I'm hoping he remains with the Chargers. Feel one, fuck one.
Who's the first one again? Real quick.
Rhamondre Stevenson.
Both favorites of mine, and probably biased, but I'm gonna roll with J.K. Dobbins based on what he showed. And I know there's always that risk for injury that people worry about, but what he overcame to still play the way he's playing, and he's playing well. I'm feeling him as a guy they might re-sign if they don't get the running back that they want. So I'm feeling it. I'm
feeling him too. Would you feel him over how many of the rookies we just talked about?
All of them except Jeanty.
That's where I'm at too. So all right. So we see that. I see that just like I'm a rookie scouting portfolioist. Who knew? I'm very proud of myself at the moment. But also, I'm slow to draft rookies just like this early. And, I wanted to throw out the conversation mostly because Matt knows about rookies and you people want to hear about them and hear him expound on them. But also to let you know what the prices are going to be like. And I think people tend to be aggressive with rookie running backs. And we might hear about a tight end in this class here before the day is over, because after Brock Bowers' success, we're all looking for the next Brock Bowers. So there we go. So let's go to the wide receiver core where some rookies did excel this year. This past season, Brian Young is wide receiver 7, Malik Nabers wide receiver 8, feel one, fuck one.
I missed, we had a little audio kerfuffle, so I heard Malik Nabers, who I'm always going to feel, but who was the first one?
Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver 7.
I'm still going Malik Nabers, even though I think you can make an argument for either one, mainly because Malik Nabers basically did it with basically one hand. He was catching balls with his mouth. That was basically the equivalent of what was going on, because he didn't have quarterbacks worth a fuck, and he didn't, and the rest of the receiving core wasn't all that great either. I think you're going to see significant upgrades, and I think that it's only going to make him a little bit more efficient and allow him to make bigger plays. Thomas, though, I mean, if you argued for Thomas, I'm not gonna go against that.
They both have changing circumstances. Both of these are poster boys for the my argument that quarterback play should not scare you away from wide receivers. Brian Thomas Jr. did the bulk of his best work, or got most of his work, with Mac Jones, probably because the coaching staff realized double-digit targets to him were a good thing. And Mac Jones could throw enough passes, even if they weren't great passes. Malik Nabers, 4 different quarterbacks, none of them very good. I would probably lean Nabers, but I'll have shares of both. I think they're both. I would like to get discounts on either or. I don't think you'll be getting them, people. I think these prices are going to be persistent throughout the course of the offseason, even with new coaching staff for Brian Thomas Jr. as well. Drake London is wide receiver 9, A.J. Brown, wide receiver 10. Feel one, fuck one.
A.J. Brown. I'm taking A.J. Brown, just mainly because I think that he's I know that we saw what happened last year, but I think that we're going to see teams have to try and make Jalen Hurts throw the ball a little bit more. And I just feel like that we're going to see a rebound year out of Brown.
100 fewer completions for Jalen Hurts than the year before. So that was a big difference-making factor. Drake London, though, was heavily targeted by Michael Penix down the stretch. I'm with you. I would probably rather have A.J. Brown at this price. Lad McConkey, a Waldman favorite. is going as wide receiver 11. Tyreek Hill is as wide receiver 12.
I'm going to take the youthful, dewy, fresh-faced boy,
The
Lad
child
McConkey,
prodigy.
the child prodigy, just because 1 year, even more, one's on the way up, one's on the way down. That's the way I look at it. And I think there's more upside for Lad McConkey, just a bit more in the receptions department. So in PPR, you could see maybe Tyreek Hill have another 1,300-yard, 1,400-yard season if everything works out. But I just, for some reason, I think Lad McConkey's more likely to be in that 80, 90, 100-yard, 100 receptions club and get you, and even have more prowess in the red area. So
would it concern you if the Chargers landed an alpha receiver, Devontae Adams? I don't know that Deebo Samuel qualifies for that. I don't know that Chris Godwin qualifies for that. I think Adams still does. Would that make a difference?
No, I don't think so. I just think it'll make the offense more productive, to be honest. So,
for the record, Tyreek Hill is now fine returning to Miami. He said so, apologized for his comments in frustration at the end of the season. I think we all knew that they were in frustration. But now you're starting to hear reports that Miami, well, if somebody calls, we'll listen. So watch Tyreek Hill. We'll see where he ends up. This is a Bob Harris favorite. Mike Evans, wide receiver 19. Xavier Worthy, wide receiver 20.
Mike Evans. Absolutely Mike Evans. I'm taking him until the wheels fall off and we see it. And while I like Xavier Worthy and what he did down the stretch, we need to see what's going on with this offense to rely on any Chiefs receiver right now as a fantasy option, because they spread the ball around a bit. We don't know whether Rashid Rice is going to be back to full strength, whether or not DeAndre Hopkins will be back, what they're going to do with him. I like Worthy, and I think he has a chance to vastly outplay his ADP, but his trap, he does still have a pretty low floor.
My rankings are Mike Evans, wide receiver 10, so he will not make it to this pick if you're drafting with me. You're officially notified. Xavier Worthy is a wide receiver 3 in my rankings, and closer to the tail end for right now. I liked what I saw at the end of the season, but all the things Matt said are true, including we don't know what's going on with Rashid Rice, and we'll need to figure that out before we make any final decisions. Odunze, wide receiver 26. DK Metcalf, wide receiver 27.
I think the smarter play, I think the wiser play is DK Metcalf, but I'm going to go with Odunze at that point. This is more of a gut feeling, risk-taking chance. And look, it's February, and everyone's going to pick their spot. So that's why all these rookie running backs and rookie receivers are so high, because people want to go and say, look, I called it in February, and be aggressive and be able to take that. But then when the draft comes, suddenly they all turtle, basically because of the landing spots. But I think if there's a player, I know his landing spot. I know what they want to do with Ben Johnson now being the coach in Chicago. And I think Odunze is going to get a chance to really spread his wings and become the player that he's capable of. Whereas I look at DK Metcalf, and I think he's capable of being a low-end wide receiver 1 in a lot of offenses, but in Kubiak's offense, I don't know. He might give you – I think that we're still going to see really Smith and Jigba really blossom, and I think that Metcalf is going to be that kind of low-end wide receiver too, kind of like how people were projecting George. I don't like the Snow Pickens.
And we'll see what happens with George Pickens, by the way. His ADP – he's right in that same range. I want to say, what did I see? Pickens was wide receiver. Why don't I see him? He should have been readily evident. There he is. He is a wide receiver 32, slightly after that.
It's hard to see with all that TreVeyon Henderson love being smeared all over that list, probably.
That's probably true. Probably true. I blame Josh Norris. All right.
I forgot about him.
I know. I was trying to help
you were waiting all this time, and I forgot about that dude. Okay, well, that's okay.
I can see having shares of both these guys. I think Jackson Smith and Jigba's rise is something people need to pay attention to. last year. Down the stretch, he was wide receiver 7. It seems like he has, and I think Geno Smith, they're saying, is going to be back. The offense will shift a little bit with Clint Kubiak running it, so that throws a wild card in the situation. But I would probably split these shares up a little bit. I would probably have some shares of Odunze because I, like you, am intrigued by the potential upside, especially if Keenan Allen ends up moving on.
Do you think Josh Norris injected all these rookies into this ADP just as a do you think he demanded it? I think he demanded it. I think he did as a frustrated scout that he once was, or scouting an intern as an intern for the for the St. Louis Rams. I think he was for a little bit. I think he was a little frustrated. That's what's going on there.
Fair point. Jakobi Meyers is wide receiver 45. Ricky Pearsall is wide receiver 46.
I'm going to say, I mean, obviously, Pearsall in ability has way more upside, but at this point, I think people sometimes go for the upside too early. If he was like wide receiver 66, I would take Ricky Pearsall over a lot of guys in that range. But Jakobi Meyers is that solid player who I think is going to have a role and still be good for that ADP and still have a little bit more ceiling than what his ADP is. So I'll take Meyers.
I feel like that's the case over the course of his career. I just want to look at the fantasy finishes for him since his time. Let's see. Let's go back to 2022, wide receiver 32, 23, wide receiver 21, 24, wide receiver 29, missing games. I think he's underrated every year. Easily overlooked. He'll be the wide receiver 2 there because Brock Bowers will remain the wide receiver 1 in my estimation. So that brings us to the tight end position. TJ Hawkinson, tight end 5. Mark Andrews, tight end 6.
TJ Hawkinson. Mainly because he's healthy, and I think that whatever new quarterback they bring in is going to lean on him. But I love Mark Andrews, and I would say that, okay, maybe I've gotten a little too enamored because then I just realized Sam Darnold might be gone and they got J.J. McCarthy in there. Fuck T.J. Hawkinson. I'm taking Mark Andrews with Lamar Jackson, even though the unfortunate instances of what happened at the end of the playoffs.
Remember the last thing we saw.
My God, that was like Jackie Smith way back in the day. In the Super
it was
Bowl.
almost. I mean, Jackie Smith was in the end zone for a touchdown, not a 2-pointer, but it's that close, right?
Yeah,
that's
he's like he's kind of the new Jackie Smith in that in terms of this generation's memory of the tight end who's always reliable, making the play that's just incomprehensible.
I'll be interested to see if this drives his price down. Because I think this is around the right price.
Yeah.
We'll see what the discussion is about his future in Baltimore. I think they're talking about other people in Baltimore more than him right now. So that's probably working in his favor.
Who's more radioactive? Yes.
I think it's an easy call.
Yeah.
Jonnu Smith, tight end 7. The new Brock Bowers, or not. Tyler Warren, tight end 8.
I'm going to go with Jonnu Smith, just mainly because he fits in that offense really well, and he's such a good runner, and you know that he's going to be a central part of the scheme. So I'm riding or dying with Jonnu Smith right now, as good as Tyler Warren could be.
I love him as well, and we'll see what Tyler Warren is or isn't. I'm guessing he's not actually going to be Brock Bowers. Just me, because that seemed like a pretty big season where you break every record.
I'm about to watch the fuck out of these guys in the next 10 days. So I'll let you know.
He broke records that are as old as me, people, and that's very old, right? So I think Brock Bowers does not come along often. Well, last one, we talked about Kyle Pitts earlier. He's tight end 18. Cade Otton is tight end 19.
Oh, Kyle Pitts all day long at that point. I don't care if I'm wrong. If you're picking past tight end 15, you're picking a tight end past the 15th one, and you have Kyle Pitts with what his potential can be. As much as I like Cade Otton, Kyle Pitts matches perfectly with Michael Penix in theory. It's a matter of whether or not what we saw in year 1 is more like what we can see in the future now that they actually have a quarterback. And remember, they put Desmond Ridder in there, okay? Desmond Ridder, who if like decision making for quarterbacks was a Squid Games, thing, red light, green light, say. He didn't know that he was colorblind. In terms of picking who was open and who was not, who's covered, who's not, he probably wouldn't make it 10 yards. Okay? So the fact that they have a real legitimate quarterback who can be a legitimate starting quarterback in this league and who throws guys open and lets Kyle Pitts be what he can be, if they scheme Pitts the right way, he could be a monster. And if Pitts is just healthy enough to roll, that's fine. The problem is did Pitts just go, oh, I made it in the league after year one and stop working? If that's part of the problem, then Otten's going to outplay him. But until we hear that, I'm rolling with Pitts.
Yeah, Otten's target share evaporated when Mike Evans returned to the lineup. I think that's a key factor for him. He's very good. Like what you said, if you're picking tight ends that late, pick the one with the super upside. We saw Otten's upside, but it was totally dependent on Mike Evans being out. We'll see. We'll see what they do with Chris Godwin there. I'm guessing he'll probably move on. But last time he got a season-ending injury, it opened the door for the Bucs to get a better deal, get him at a discount. And
they better try and keep him. But
I'm guessing they will. They'd have a great 3-man rotation with Jalen McMillan in there, and I think that would not work out for Cade Otton even less than just Chris Godwin.
Cade's going to have a long career, and he's going to be a good tight end. And we're going to be talking about him in probably 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, about every occasionally when he sneaks into the top 12.
And we'll still be talking about how disappointing Kyle Pitts was.
We might. We'll see. But you know what? That's all right. Gene Bramble couldn't quit Mark Ingram a long time ago. I'm not quitting Kyle Pitts, and because of the circumstances we've seen thus far.
Yeah, we're looking at what round is that? That's like double-digit rounds, people. So, yes, feel free.
Look, Brandon Graham was taking pictures at the end of the Super Bowl with his ring, and I remember we were joking about freeing Brandon Graham and IDP. So I'm feeling Brandon Graham still, even though he ain't doing shit.
All right, I'm feeling like I'm going to take next week off. The effort to Wally Pitt me will be ongoing, so you have that to look forward to, people. I like to leave everyone with something to hope for.
Hope for your being deposed? Is that what this is? That you're gonna that football diehard gets deposed? That's what we're gonna. That's the goal. I got wonderful suggestions last time from all of you, who, by the way, also said, "Yeah, don't get rid of Bob. Don't get rid of Bob," because we really enjoy this show, and I got lots of emails to share with Bob that that people really bring up this show a lot and how much they enjoy it. And sometimes some of you have been in shitty work circumstances, which we all have been there and understand, and that these conversations kind of brighten their day and give a little respite from some of the bullshit that they got to deal with to bring in the cash. So we're glad that we can provide that service for you. And of course, check out Bob's work at Football Guys. He does fantastic work. Bob was, I can see Bob starting to turn a little red, just slightly so, because I'm going to say good stuff about Bob, But this is the moment know that I'm thinking about all the great stuff that I think about Bob, so that he doesn't have to hear it. I'm trying to be kind to him by not going into that detail, but you know what we got here in Bob Harris. So do that. You know what you got in the rookie scouting portfolio. If you haven't checked it out yet, and you're curious about kind of the stuff that I look at, go on Twitter right now, because I have a timeline, basic or Blue Sky. I have a timeline filled with types of analysis that's really the tip of the iceberg of what I do, and you can get that at mattwaldman.com. That's available on Stripe or PayPal, whichever one you want to use. I don't care. It just whatever's easiest for you, and we will see you. Well, I'll see you next week with somebody, and we'll see if we can at least dunk Bob Harris in the water. That's really all we're doing, is the Bob Harris dunking booth and going, that guy had a better week than Bob did last week, but I doubt it. And most of them are scared shitless of the idea of trying to depose Bob Harris, which I understand.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Love you.
Love you.